Alright, what we're going to discuss on this movement is laterals. Side laterals and bent laterals. This one is done horrid all the time. The problem most people do is instead of leading with their elbows, they tend to lead with their hands where the leg is. That ends up doing what I call chicken wing. Okay? So what people end up doing is coming up and doing this. Alright? So anatomically wise, you want to put as much stress on the delt as possible. To do so, your hand should never ever go higher than your elbow. Alright? They should always be level. Another thing is don't completely lock the elbow, but don't bend it too much either. You want to have a soft lockout when you're doing lateral motion. And then the next key point is to internally rotate your arm as you're coming up. So what I mean by that is most people will come up and they go back into the movement. Alright? When you're coming up, you're going to internally rotate that humerus, almost like you're pulling something out of the pitcher with your hands. Alright? So you're coming down, internally rotate. Every time you're coming up, you're internally rotating that dumbbell. And another thing is, if you tend to come above shoulder height, you're going to activate a lot more traps and take the isolation out of the dumbbell. Alright? So, same thing applies when you're doing a bent over lateral. Most people, when they're doing it, instead of staying in alignment with their shoulder, they tend to go back with the dumbbell. And obviously when you're doing that, you're going to activate your lats a lot more. People do that because they can use more weight. So when you're doing it, 2 motions. Make sure you're staying level with the shoulder, and then also when you're coming up, you're internally rotating that elbow, pulling it straight up towards the ceiling. Coming down, straight up towards the ceiling. Alright? And another mistake with the bent lateral. Everybody, when they're doing it, tends to pinch the shoulder blades in the back. Okay, when you're doing that, you're bringing your lats, your rhomboids, teres minor and major all into play and taking the isolation out of the rear delt. So when you're doing the motion, as much as possible, try to keep your shoulder blades protracted, so keeping them forward during the whole motion. So that's going to limit your range of motion, so don't think you have to come up as high as you do. Alright, so a proper bent lateral, you're going to come up, internally rotate, get a dip contraction, back, internally rotate. So a nice, smooth motion. Alright? So to demonstrate again, bilaterals, slight bend the elbow, reach away from the body, internally rotate at the top. Every time you're coming up. Same thing with the bent laterals. Back is nice and flat. Reach away from the body and slightly internally rotate those arms. Alright? And another thing that I've posted out many times on my page is continuous tension. Everybody, when they're doing a motion, every time they come down, pause. Pause. You're basically doing multiple sets of one when you're doing that, alright? We want to keep continuous tension on that delt. So at all times, just have the motion continuous. No pausing at all. Continuous motion, but no throwing, not using momentum, alright? So, just nice and strict, activate as much muscle fiber as possible, take the momentum out, and stimulate, okay?